I'm the woman who called her boyfriend disgusting for wanting me. 6 months later, I'm Googling how to make him desire you again at 3 a.m. while he's sleeping in the guest room we converted to his office. Let me be clear about something before I tell you this story. I know I'm the villain here. I know because I've replayed that Saturday morning in April approximately 300 times, and each replay makes me cringe harder than the last. I know because my therapist, Janet, stopped taking notes when I told her what I said, just looked at me over her reading glasses with that expression that means, we're going to need more sessions. I know because Marcus, sweet, affectionate, devoted Marcus, hasn't initiated so much as a handshake since that morning, and somehow I've convinced myself and everyone around us that he's the one destroying our relationship. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand what we had before I torched it with 3 careless words. Marcus and I met 4 years ago at a marketing tech conference in Seattle. I was presenting on integrated campaign strategies, and he was building the back-end systems that made those strategies actually work. He approached me after my talk with his blue ceramic coffee mug, the one with the tiny chip on the handle that he refused to throw away, and said, "Your slide about API integrations was wrong. No, but your conclusion was brilliant anyway." I should have been offended. Instead, I was charmed by his complete inability to flirt properly. We were that couple, you know? The ones who made people uncomfortable with how much we touched. Not in a gross, performative way, just constant, casual contact. His hand on my lower back in the grocery store, my fingers in his hair while he coded on the couch. Hip bumps at the kitchen sink while doing dishes. We showered with the door open, left each other steam messages on the bathroom mirror, fell asleep tangled like teenagers who just discovered sex. God, I miss that bathroom door being open. These days I hear the lock click every single time. Our mornings had a rhythm. Marcus would wake up first, always, even on weekends, and I'd hear him padding to the kitchen, the coffee maker gurgling to life. He'd bring me coffee in bed in that blue mug of his because he insisted it kept coffee hotter longer, and he'd sit on the edge of the bed while I woke up properly. His hand would find my hip through the blanket. Not sexual, just connecting. Like he needed to make sure I was real. That we were real. "You're home today, right?" he'd ask, even though he knew my schedule better than I did. Marketing director means working from home Tuesdays and Thursdays, office on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He just liked hearing me confirm it, liked knowing I'd be in the apartment when he took his lunch break from his home setup in what used to be the dining room. He'd kiss my forehead, always forehead first, then lips if I'd turned my face up, and head to his desk. By 9 a.m., I'd be showered and working from the kitchen counter, and he'd wander over between meetings, sometimes just to steal a sip of my coffee, sometimes to massage my shoulders while I typed, sometimes to read me a ridiculous comment from his code review, his chin on my shoulder, his breath warm against my ear. "You're distracting me," I'd say, but I'd lean back into him anyway. "Good," he'd answer. "You've been frowning at that screen for 40 minutes. Lunch was always together on my home days. Nothing fancy. Leftovers, sandwiches, sometimes just crackers and cheese. But we'd sit on our ugly brown couch that we'd inherited from his brother. My legs across his lap, the fleece blanket he'd had since college draped over us even in summer because our air conditioning was aggressive. He'd absent-mindedly rub my feet while scrolling his phone, and I'd steal bites of whatever he was eating even though I had the exact same thing on my plate. "Your food tastes better," I'd insist. "You're ridiculous," he'd say, but he'd angle his plate toward me anyway. Evenings were our sacred time. No laptops after 7 p.m. That was the rule. We'd cook together, which mostly meant I'd chop vegetables while he actually cooked because I once burned pasta so badly we had to throw away the pot. He'd put on some terrible playlist, usually 90s hip-hop or experimental jazz that made me threaten divorce, and dance me around the kitchen between stirring whatever was on the stove. His hands would find my waist, pull me close during the slow songs, and I'd complain about his music taste while pressing closer anyway. "This song is literally about selling drugs," I'd point out. "But the beat is incredible," he'd counter, spinning me under his arm. The kitchen counter was our space, not for anything dirty, get your mind out of the gutter, but for those little moments, hip checks while loading the dishwasher, his hand on my lower back while reaching over me for a glass, the way he'd cage me in while I was washing dishes, not trapping, just surrounding, his chest against my back, his arms bracketing mine, helping with the plates while kissing my neck. "You're not actually helping," I'd say. "I'm supervising," he'd murmur against my skin. Quality control. Bedtime had its own choreography. I'd do my elaborate skincare routine. The lavender hand lotion on my nightstand was part of step 6, while he'd already be in bed, scrolling Reddit on his phone, his charging cable stretched from his side of the bed. When I'd finally climb in, he'd immediately abandon his phone, roll toward me, and we'd talk in the dark. About nothing, about everything. His hand would find mine under the covers, fingers interlacing, thumb stroking. "Sleep tight, beautiful," he'd say every single night, even when we'd argued, even when I'd been a complete bitch about his mother calling too much, even when he was exhausted from a production deployment. Sex was easy, frequent, playful. Sunday mornings especially, we called it Sunday service, which made us laugh every time, like we were teenagers who'd invented innuendo. But it wasn't just the sex. It was the way he'd pull me onto his lap while we watched TV. The way he'd wrap his arms around me from behind while I brushed my teeth. The way he'd kiss me goodbye in the parking garage, spot number 47. Every morning I went to the office, like he wouldn't see me in 8 hours, like it mattered. "Drive safe," he'd say, hand lingering on my cheek. "It's 7 miles, I'd remind him. Still, that was before the promotion, before the Harris campaign, before I started carrying my stress like armor and viewing every touch through the lens of another obligation, another person needing something from me, another demand on my already depleted resources. The promotion came in February. Senior Marketing Director, North American Markets. Sounds impressive, right? It came with a 40% salary bump, a team of 12, and responsibility for a product launch that would make or break our quarterly projections. My boss Sandra called it a stretch opportunity. What she meant was, we're throwing you into the deep end with ankle weights. The Harris campaign was our make or break moment. 3 months to repositioning a failing financial tech product for Gen Z users who thought banking apps were shuji. Every metric was red. Every stakeholder was panicking. My phone started buzzing at 6 a.m. with Slack messages and didn't stop until midnight. I'd fall asleep laptop warm on my chest, wake up to Marcus gently closing it and plugging it in for me. "You need to sleep," he'd say. "I need to fix the conversion funnel." I'd mumble back. The first signs were subtle. His morning hip squeeze started feeling like an interruption when I was already mentally running through my 9 a.m. presentation. His lunch break wanderings to the kitchen became intrusions into my crisis management calls. I started taking calls from the bedroom with the door closed, started eating lunch at my laptop, started treating his playlist and cooking routine like background noise to my email checking. "No phones at dinner, remember?" he'd say, gently taking my iPhone from my hand. "Just this one thing," I'd promise, already reaching for it again. My body started carrying the tension like a backpack full of rocks, shoulders up by my ears, jaw clenched so tight I cracked a molar and needed a crown. My lower back seizing every time I stood up from my desk. Marcus would offer to rub my shoulders, and I'd flinch. "Too hard?" he'd ask, hands immediately lighter. "Just, not now," I'd say, hunching back over my screen. The Sunday services stopped first. I was too tired, too stress-ed, had too much to prep for Monday's executive review. He'd curl around me in bed, hands sliding under my tank top, and I'd go rigid. Tomorrow, I'd promise, tomorrow would come with another crisis, another fire, another reason why I couldn't. Not now, maybe later. I'm just not in the mood. He adapted because Marcus always adapted. The touches became lighter, less frequent, more careful. He'd hover his hand over my shoulder, waiting to see if I'd lean in or pull away. Started asking, "Is this okay?" before hugging me from behind. Started announcing himself, "Coming through," before hip-checking me at the sink. The thing about stress is that it makes everything feel like too much. The bathroom door being open felt like a violation of the only privacy I had. The Steam messages felt like performative romance when I barely had energy to shower. His hand on my hip in the morning felt like the beginning of an expectation I couldn't meet. "You're always pawing at me," I heard myself say one Thursday night when he'd tried to pull me onto his lap during the one episode of TV I'd agreed to watch. He let go immediately. "Sorry, I didn't realize. It's just, I'm touched out, okay? Between the office and the meetings and everyone needing something from me all day, I need space when I get home." "Okay," he said, scooting to the other end of the couch. "I understand." He gave me space, stopped the morning hip squeezes, stopped the shoulder rubs, stopped pulling me close during cooking. But stress is hungry. It needs more and more space to breathe. What started as "I'm touched out" became, "Why are you always staring at me?" when I'd catch him, looking at me from his desk. Became, "Do we have to do this every night?" about cooking together. Became, "Can't you see I'm busy?" when he'd try to talk to me during lunch. My therapist would later call this displacement. I called it survival. I was drowning in demands from Sandra, from stakeholders, from clients, from my team, and Marcus's love, which had once been my life raft, started feeling like another weight pulling me under. The breaking point was coming. I could feel it building like pressure in my ears, like the moment before a thunderstorm when the air goes electric and wrong. I just didn't know that when it happened, I'd be the lightning, and Marcus would be the ground. It was Saturday morning, April 15th, tax day, which felt cosmically appropriate for what I was about to do. Extract a devastating toll from us both. I'd been up since 5 a.m., laptop warm on my thighs, fixing a deck for Monday's board presentation. The Harris campaign was 3 weeks from launch, and our beta testing numbers were catastrophic. 17% below projections. Sandra had used the word unacceptable 6 times in our Friday call. Marcus was in the shower. I could hear him humming something, probably Radiohead. He always hummed Radiohead in the shower, and normally that would make me smile. That morning it grated, like everything grated, like the universe was conspiring to irritate me with its existence. He came out wearing just boxers, steam following him like a cloud, and headed to his dresser. I didn't look up from my screen. He pulled on his weekend uniform, gray sweatpants, that ancient Michigan State t-shirt with the hole near the hem, and padded to the kitchen. Coffee maker sounds, cabinet opening, the particular clink of his blue mug against the counter. Then he was back, standing beside the bed, coffee in hand, my coffee in his mug, prepared exactly how I liked it. 2 sugars, oat milk, the tiniest splash of vanilla he added from the bottle he'd bought specifically for my coffee. "Morning, beautiful," he said, setting the mug on my nightstand, carefully away from my laptop. His hand went to my hair, fingers gentle, tucking a strand behind my ear. I jerked away, hard, like he'd burned me. "What the fuck, Marcus?" He froze. "What? Why are you always touching me? I'm clearly working. I'm obviously stressed. And you're here? What? Trying to seduce me at 7 in the morning?" "I brought you coffee," he said, voice careful, confused. "I touched your hair." "You're always touching my hair. Always touching something. My hip, my shoulder, my back. always pressed against me in the kitchen, always trying to pull me onto your lap, always initiating something. I thought, that's how we are, how we've always been. No, that's how you are. You're the one who sexualizes everything. Can't bring me coffee without touching me. Can't pass me in the hallway without your hands on my waist. Can't watch TV without trying to start something. He took a step back, then another. His face did something I'd never seen before, like watching a building collapse in slow motion, floor by floor, until there was nothing left but rubble. I sexualize everything, he repeated, flat. Yes, everything has to lead somewhere with you. Every touch is about sex. It's like you can't just exist in the same space without pawing at me. Like I'm not a person, just this thing you need to be constantly groping. The word hung between us. Groping. Like he was some creep on the subway. Like he was a predator. Like 4 years of loving touch was actually violation. That's what you think? His voice was so quiet, I almost missed it under my laptop's fan. That when I touch you, I'm groping you? The rational part of my brain, the part that wasn't drowning in cortisol and deadline panic, screamed at me to take it back, to clarify, to soften. But stress and exhaustion make liars of us all, and the lie that felt truest in that moment was that Marcus was the problem. I think you can't separate affection from sex. I think you don't respect when I'm clearly not interested. I think you treat my body like it's yours to touch whenever you want. He set his coffee. His own coffee, I realized, not mine. He'd made 2 cups on my dresser. His hands were shaking. Actually shaking. I'm going to go. I need to. He stopped, swallowed. I'm sorry. I didn't know you felt that way. I won't. It won't happen again. Marcus? No. You're right. You're clearly working. I shouldn't have. He gestured vaguely at the space between us, at the coffee, at the entire morning. I'm sorry for sexualizing you, for making you feel groped, for... His voice cracked. I'm just sorry. He left the room. I heard the bathroom door close. Lock. The shower turned on again, which was weird because he'd just showered. I found out later from his brother that he'd stood under the water fully clothed, sobbing for 40 minutes. But in that moment, I just felt relief. Finally, some space. Finally, some peace. Finally, he understood that I needed him to back off. I went back to my presentation, made 3 more slides, fixed the revenue projections, drank the coffee he'd made me. Perfect temperature, perfect sweetness, perfect everything, except for the fact that I'd just shattered the man who'd made it. That was the last time Marcus initiated any physical contact with me. 6 months, 183 days, and counting. The first week felt like winning. Marcus became the perfect roommate. He made coffee every morning, 2 cups, mine, in my favorite mug now, his in the blue ceramic one, and left mine on the kitchen counter with a Post-it. Have a good day? He cooked dinner, portioned mine onto a plate, covered it with foil, left it on the stove with another note. Chicken picada. Microwave. 2 mins. He did his laundry and mine, separately, folding everything precisely and leaving my basket outside the bedroom door like a hotel service. Thank you, I'd say when we passed in the hallway. No problem, he'd answer, already moving past, careful not to touch, not even accidentally. The bathroom door stayed locked now. Always. I'd hear him turn the lock even when I was clearly in the living room, on calls, nowhere near the bathroom. No more steam messages on the mirror. No more leaving the door cracked while he brushed his teeth. When we needed to pass in the hallway, he'd flatten himself against the wall. Excuse me, he'd say, like we were strangers on a subway platform. The kitchen became a choreographed avoidance. If I was at the sink, he'd wait in the doorway until I moved. If he was cooking and I needed water, he'd step completely out of the kitchen, not just aside, completely out, and wait until I was done. Once, I reached over him for a glass while he was stirring pasta, and he flinched so hard he dropped the spoon. "Sorry," he said, retrieving it from the floor. "I'll move." "Marcus, you don't have to. It's fine. I'm done here anyway." He started going to the gym in the evenings. Every evening. His gym bag lived by the door now, packed and ready. He'd leave at 6:30, come back at 8:10, shower with the door locked, and retreat to his office, the former guest room he'd moved into by week 2. "I snore," he'd explained, carrying his pillow and phone charger past our bedroom. "This is better for your sleep." I didn't argue. I was getting the best sleep I'd had in months, sprawled across our entire king bed. No one's alarm but mine. No warm body making me overheat. Victory, right? Week 3, Maya noticed. We were having lunch at that overpriced salad place near my office, and she asked why Marcus hadn't come to her boyfriend's birthday party. "He had a work thing," I lied. "On a Saturday? Big deployment." She studied me over her kale Caesar. "Everything okay with you two?" "Perfect," I said, stabbing a crouton. "He's actually been super respectful of my space lately. Not clingy at all." "Marcus? Not clingy? Are we talking about the same man who once drove across town to bring you tampons and chocolate because you had a sad emoji in your text?" That had happened. Year 2. I'd sent him a frowny face about my period starting, and 40 minutes later, he was at my office with a CVS bag full of supplies and my favorite candy. Sandra had called him husband material for a month after that. "He's evolved," I said. Week 4, his brother Jake came for dinner. Marcus cooked, lamb chops, the fancy ones from Whole Foods, and the 3 of us sat at the dining table Marcus had reclaimed from his office setup. Jake kept looking between us, noting the careful distance, the way Marcus served my plate without asking what I wanted, how we never once touched. "Pass the salt," I asked. Marcus slid it across the table rather than handing it to me. Jake raised an eyebrow. "You two fighting or something?" "No," Marcus said quickly. "Everything's fine." "We're great," I added, reaching for my wine. Jake watched Marcus watch me drink, then look away when I caught him watching. "Sure you are?" Week 6, the wedding invitation on our fridge became a problem. Marcus's college roommate, destination wedding in Napa, RSVP by May 1st. We'd been planning to make a long weekend of it, do the wine tours, stay at that boutique hotel with the clawfoot tubs. Marcus filled out the RSVP card. Marcus Chen, party of 1. "You're not bringing me?" I asked, finding him in his office. He didn't look up from his monitors. "I didn't think you'd want to go. It's Danny's wedding. I've known him for 3 years. "Okay." He opened a new browser tab, started typing. "I'll email him. Add you back." "Back?" I told him last week we were having some space issues. He understood. Space issues. Like we were a hard drive running out of memory. Like we were something technical he could debug and optimize. Week 8, my mother called. Marcus didn't answer when I called him for his birthday breakfast tradition. Is he sick? Fuck, his birthday. I'd completely forgotten his birthday. We're going through something, I admitted. What kind of something? Just adjustment stuff. Work's been crazy. Sweetheart, that man has loved you since the moment he met you. Don't adjustment stuff him away. But that was the thing. He still loved me. I could see it in the way he still made my coffee perfectly. In the post-it notes that always included something specific. Your presentation will go great. Or, that blue blouse you wanted is clean. In how he'd ordered my favorite Thai food when I'd had a visible breakdown over Zoom. Left it outside my door with a bottle of wine and a stupid card with a cat on it that said, "Hang in there." He loved me. He just didn't touch me. Ever. At all. Not once. Week 10, I tried to test it. Sat next to him on the couch while he watched basketball. Our old fleece blanket across my lap. He immediately stood up. "You can have the TV," he said, heading for his office. "Marcus, We can watch together. I'm good. Need to review some code anyway. Week 12. Desperation made me bold. I waited until he was cooking. Salmon, which I knew he was making because I'd mentioned craving it 3 days ago, and came up behind him. Put my hand on his shoulder. Just that. Just my hand on his shoulder like a normal girlfriend would do. He went completely still. Stopped stirring. Stopped breathing. It seemed like, "Please don't," he said quietly. "Don't what?" "Touch my boyfriend." "You said I sexualize everything. I'm trying to respect that. Please." "One hand on your shoulder is sexual?" He moved away from my hand, turned off the stove. "I can't tell the difference anymore. You said I can't separate affection from sex, so I'm not risking it. I'm not going to be that guy who gropes you." That word, grope, hit like cold water. I'd said that. I'd called his touch groping. "Marcus, dinner's ready. I'm going to the gym." He left his salmon untouched, grabbed his bag, and was gone before I could form another sentence. Week 16. I broke down in therapy. Janet listened to me sob about how Marcus wouldn't even high-five me when I'd landed the Johnson account, how he'd physically recoiled when I'd tried to hug him after his team's product launch. "He won't touch me," I cried. "Not at all. It's like I have a disease." "What did you tell him about his touch?" Janet asked calmly. I'd said he sexualized everything. And that he was always pawing at me. And that he groped me." Janet set down her pen. "You told your partner of 4 years that his affection was groping." I was stressed. The Harris campaign was, "Sarah." She took off her reading glasses. "You told him his love language was violation." What did you think would happen? That night I found Marcus in his office. 3 monitors glowing, code scrolling past. His massage oil, the fancy one I'd bought him for Christmas, sat unopened on his bookshelf, seal unbroken. "Can we talk?" I asked from the doorway. "Sure." He didn't turn around. "What's up? You haven't touched me in 4 months." 112 days, he corrected, fingers never stopping on his keyboard. "And that's what you asked for." "I didn't ask for complete physical abandonment." He finally turned, and his eyes were so tired. "You said I sexualize everything, that I grope you, that I can't separate affection from sex. So I'm not touching you at all, because I don't trust myself to know the difference anymore. I thought touching your hair was affection. You told me it was sexual. I thought hip checks at the sink were playful. You told me it was pawing. I don't know what's okay anymore, so nothing is okay. That's what you wanted." "That's not—" "I have a deadline," he said, turning back to his screens. "We can talk about this later." We didn't talk about it later. We didn't talk about much of anything anymore. We existed in the same space like parallel lines, close, but never touching, extending endlessly in the same direction, but destined to never meet. The fleece blanket stayed folded on his side of the couch, untouched for so long it started smelling like the apartment instead of like him. The lavender lotion on my nightstand developed a film of dust. His phone charger migrated permanently to his office. The parking garage goodbye kisses became waves from across the lot, then just separate exits at different times. I'd won. I'd gotten all the space I demanded. The victory tasted like ash and silence and coffee that was perfectly made but served without love, just obligation and muscle memory and whatever was left when you stripped away every tender impulse from a man who'd loved you with his whole body. Month 5. September. The Harris campaign had launched successfully, 23% above revised projections. Sandra called it a miracle. I got a bonus that could buy a car. I felt nothing, just empty, like I'd won a race nobody else was running. It was Janet, who finally held up the mirror I'd been avoiding. "When did you last initiate?" she asked during our Thursday session. "Initiate what?" "Physical contact, intimacy, affection, sex, any of it." I sat there, mentally scrolling through our relationship like searching for a specific email you know exists but can't locate. Before the promotion, before the explosion in April, before when? I Christmas? We had sex. Christmas morning. Who initiated? He did. He always. I stopped. He always initiated. Janet completed. And you called him disgusting for it. I didn't use the word disgusting. You said he sexualized everything. Same semantic family. Sarah, in 4 years, how many times did you initiate physical intimacy? The silence stretched. I counted. New Year's Eve, once, drunk on champagne, his birthday 2 years ago, felt obligated. Our anniversary last year seemed expected. Maybe 5 times total? 6? I'm not good at initiating. But you wanted him to desire you. Of course I did. You wanted him to want you, but only on your schedule, to intuit when you were receptive without you signaling it, to risk rejection repeatedly while you never risked it once. That's not... Sarah, you trained him to do all the emotional labor of physical intimacy, then called him disgusting for doing it. That word, trained, hit somewhere deep, like I'd turned Marcus into some kind of performing animal, jumping through hoops for the possibility of affection, then yanked away the treats and called him greedy for jumping. That weekend, Maya dragged me to a wine bar in Capitol Hill, one of those places with exposed brick and Edison bulbs where tech workers pretended to be sophisticated. I was 3 glasses deep in a Malbec when I saw them, a couple at the corner table. She was reading something on her phone. He was sketching in a notebook, their knees touching under the table. Without looking up, she reached over and ran her fingers through his hair. He leaned into it, smiled, kept drawing. Such a small thing, such a nothing gesture, but it cracked something open in me. I missed being touched. I heard myself tell Maya, "Then touch him," she said, like it was simple. "I can't. He won't let me." I tried. You tried once, after telling him his touch was violation. Sarah, babe, you took a man who loved you with his whole body and made him afraid of his own hands. I was stressed. You were cruel. Maya never sugared things. It's why I loved her, and why I sometimes hated her. My ex did that to me once, said I was too much, too needy, too physical. Know what happened? What? I shut down completely. Took 2 years and a different girlfriend to believe my touch wasn't toxic, and she had to work for it. Every day, proving my affection was wanted. Marcus gave you 4 years of that proof, and you called it groping. I left the bar early, walked home in the Seattle drizzle without an umbrella. Found Marcus in the living room, working on his laptop, that fleece blanket across his lap, but not touching him really, just existing in his vicinity, like everything else in his carefully maintained orbit. Close, but never connecting. "Hi," I said. "Hey, there's pasta in the fridge. The good one, from that place on Pine." He'd gone to Pine Street, 20 minutes out of his way, to get pasta from the place I'd mentioned once, 3 weeks ago, that I missed. "Marcus? Still typing. Do you still love me?" His fingers froze. The cursor blinked. Finally. "Yes." "But you don't want me." He closed his laptop slowly, deliberately. When he looked at me, his eyes were careful, guarded, like someone who'd learned not to show hurt. "You taught me not to want you," he said quietly. "I'm just a good student." That night, I couldn't sleep. His words, "You taught me not to want you," played on loop in my head. At 3 a.m., I found myself standing outside his office door, hand raised to knock, frozen. How do you knock on a door in your own apartment to talk to your own boyfriend? But that's what we'd become, polite strangers negotiating shared space. I knocked. "Come in." He was still awake, still coding, energy drink cans forming a small skyline on his desk. "We need to talk about us," I said. He saved his work, closed his laptop, turned his chair to face me. So formal, so careful. Okay, this isn't sustainable. I agree. The quick agreement stung. I'd expected resistance, maybe hope that we could fix this. Not immediate surrender. I miss you, I said. I'm right here. No, not. You're performing roommate duties, making my coffee, doing my laundry, buying my favorite pasta. But you're not here. Not really. He studied his hands. You said I sexualized everything, that I couldn't separate affection from sex. So I separated myself entirely. It seemed safer. I was wrong. Were you? He looked up then, and there was something hard in his eyes I'd never seen before. Because I've been thinking about it for 5 months, Sarah. Every touch you flinched away from. Every time you went rigid when I curled around you in bed. Every not now, and I'm too tired. And can you just not? Maybe you weren't wrong. Maybe you were finally being honest. That's not. Do you know what it's like to love someone with your whole body and have them call it groping? His voice stayed level, controlled, but his knuckles were white. To bring coffee and affection and have it labeled as sexualizing? To exist in your own home, afraid that any gesture of love will be seen as assault? I never said assault. You said groping. Same family of violation, and now, 5 months later, after I've trained myself not to want you, after I've killed every instinct to reach for you, now you miss me? Yes, I miss my boyfriend. I miss being touched without having to beg for it. When did you ever beg? He stood up, paced to his bookshelf, fingers not quite touching the unopened massage oil. When did you ever ask? In 4 years, Sarah. When did you ever reach for me first? When did you ever take the emotional risk of initiating? The math was so obvious now. 4 years of Marcus reaching out, testing the waters, risking rejection. 4 years of me deciding yes or no. Like a queen granting audiences, the power dynamic had been so skewed. And I'd never even noticed. I want to fix this, I said. How? By teaching me it's safe to touch you again? By undoing months of conditioning? By expecting me to read your mind about when you're receptive versus when I'm pawing at you? By going to couples therapy, by talking, by trying, no. Just that? No. Simple, final, a door closing. You're giving up on us? He turned to face me fully then, and his expression was so sad. Sarah, we're not sexually compatible. We were for 4 years. No. I was in love and willing to accept crumbs. You were comfortable being desired without having to desire back. That's not compatibility, that's codependence. So that's it? You're done? I'm done pretending this is fixable with the right conversation or therapy session. You see physical intimacy as something to manage, tolerate, or endure, unless you're specifically in the mood. I see it as how I express and receive love. We're fundamentally different. People change, do they? It's been 5 months. Have you changed? Have you reached for me once without it being a test or manipulation? Have you initiated any physical contact that wasn't trying to prove a point? I thought about my hand on his shoulder while he cooked. Testing, seeing if he'd crack. Not genuine affection, just scientific experiment. I love you, I tried. I know. But you love me like a roommate who you sometimes have sex with. I need to love and be loved with my whole body, and you've made it very clear that's too much for you. Marcus, please! I'll start looking for apartments tomorrow. We can figure out the lease, the furniture, all of it. Civilly, like an adults, like roommates do when they're moving on. He turned back to his computer, opened his laptop, started typing. Conversation over. Relationship over. 4 years over, decided in a room that used to be for guests, and was now his refuge from me. You're really doing this? My voice cracked. You did this, he said without looking up. 5 months ago. I'm just finally admitting what you already knew. We don't work anymore. Jake arrived the next Saturday with boxes and a U-Haul. Not Marcus. Marcus was conveniently at a work emergency that we both knew was fabricated. His brother had the same Chen family cheekbones, but none of Marcus's softness, and he looked at me like I was something stuck to his shoe. "I've got a list," Jake said, not bothering with hello. "Marcus's things, joint purchases he's willing to leave, and items up for discussion." "He made a spreadsheet," I said, recognizing Marcus's methodical approach. "He made several. This is the simplified version." Jake handed me his phone. Color-coded tabs, furniture, electronics, kitchen items, books, sentimental objects, 4 years itemized and categorized like a product inventory. "The coffee maker?" I asked, seeing it in his column. "He bought it. For me, as a gift. After you complained the old one was too loud. He has the receipt." Everything had a receipt, apparently. Marcus had been planning this with the same precision he applied to code deployment. Risk mitigation, his specialty. I watched Jake pack the blue ceramic mug with bubble wrap, more careful than necessary. The fleece blanket went into a box marked bedroom. The massage oil from his office shelf, still sealed, went into bathroom personal. His phone charger, all 3 backup cables, organized into a Ziploc bag. The books, Jake asked, standing in front of my bookshelf. He can take whatever. He only wants his. The programming ones, the sci-fi collection, the signed Murakami. I gave him that Murakami, and he treasures it. But you wrote "Happy Birthday, Babe" in the front cover. He says looking at it hurts. While Jake packed, I did what any rational adult would do. I social media stalked my not-quite ex-boyfriend. His Instagram had gone dark after April. The last post was from March, a photo of our coffee cups, side by side on the balcony. Caption, "Sunday mornings, done right." The contrast to his empty feed since then was damning. But his LinkedIn was active, new certification completed, promotion to senior technical lead, a post about embracing change and new challenges that got 847 likes and dozens of comments about how he deserved all the success coming his way. His Spotify was the real knife. We still had a family plan, oversight in the separation spreadsheet, and I could see his listening activity, workout playlists, all aggressive hip-hop and metal. Moving on, Mix created in May, new chapter in July, and last week, dating again. "Find what you're looking for?" Jake asked, catching me scrolling. "Just checking." He's not dating. The playlist is aspirational, but he did join a rock climbing gym and a book club, and he's in therapy twice a week working on, and I quote, "rebuilding his relationship with physical intimacy." He told you that? I'm his brother, also his emergency contact when he passed out at the gym from not eating because someone he loved called his affection disgusting. I never said disgusting. Groping, sexualizing, pawing. You want to debate semantics while I pack his life into boxes? I found the spreadsheet that evening. Not the moving one. Different. Marcus had left his laptop briefly when grabbing clothes, and it was still open to a Google Doc. Relationship patterns, data analysis, a log going back 2 years, every initiation of physical intimacy, date, time, response, color-coded. Green for accepted, yellow for redirected, red for rejected. The last 6 months before April were a sea of red with occasional yellow. 93% rejection rate in the final quarter. Notes in the margins. Stressed about presentation. Valid. Tired from travel. Understandable. Not in mood. Respect this. Always giving me grace. Always finding reasons that weren't about him. The final entry, April 15th, highlighted in black. Called my touch groping. Pattern confirmed. I've been violating her. Stop all physical contact immediately. He turned his heartbreak into data. Tried to solve us like a bug in the code. The spreadsheet ended with a summary. Conclusion. Fundamental incompatibility in intimacy needs. My presence causes her distress. Solution: remove myself. I tried to talk to him when he came home to grab more clothes. Found him in our bedroom, my bedroom, packing his weekend jeans. I saw your spreadsheet. Which one? Flat, tired. The relationship analysis. That was private. You left it open. I left it open so you'd see it. He folded a shirt with military precision. So you'd understand this isn't impulsive. I've been trying to solve us for 2 years, Sarah. Every formula, every approach, every adjustment. The data doesn't lie. We're not data? 93% rejection rate. Do you know what that does to a person? To reach out 30 times and be pushed away 28. To finally stop trying and have your partner only notice 5 months later when she needs something. I'm trying now. No, you're panicking now. There's a difference. He zipped his bag, headed for the door, stopped, turned back. I found the ring, by the way, from April, the one I was going to propose with after your campaign launch. Thank God for that morning, right? Saved us both from a bigger mistake. Marcus, but he was gone, leaving me with the echo of what could have been. A ring. He'd bought a ring, had been planning to propose right when I'd called his love violation. Beth from work found me crying in the bathroom stall Monday morning. Marcus, she asked. Word had traveled. He's moving out. Says we're incompatible. My ex did that, she offered, after I told him he was too clingy. Been 3 years. I'm still single. He's married with a baby on the way. That's not helpful, Beth. No, but it's true. Some men, when you break them like that, they don't come back. They just go find someone who wants what they're offering. She was right. Marcus wasn't coming back. He was systematic, thorough, complete in his extraction. Like deleting code from production. No traces, no dependencies, no chance of restoration. October. 6 months since that April morning. The divorce of our lives was nearly complete. Lease transferred to my name, joint accounts closed, even the Spotify family plan severed. I'd kept the apartment, but it felt wrong. Like wearing someone else's clothes. Too big, too quiet, too full of negative space where Marcus used to exist. It was Maya who suggested Victrola. You need to get out. Also, I need caffeine and adult supervision while I text this guy from Bumble. Victrola was our place. Mine and Marcus's first date after the conference. He'd gotten foam art that looked like a penis by accident and turned so red the barista comped our drinks. We'd gone every Sunday for 2 years until I'd started taking weekend calls, and our rituals dissolved into his solo trips. I saw his laptop bag first, that distinctive red patch from DEF CON that he'd sewn on crooked. Corner table, the one by the window we'd called our office when working on weekend projects together. My body knew before my brain caught up, already turning to leave, but Maya grabbed my arm. Is that Marcus? It was. Hair a little longer, new glasses, those trendy clear frames I'd told him looked pretentious, but actually looked good. Gray Henley, that emphasized arms I didn't remember being that defined. Rock climbing gym results, apparently. And her. Not beautiful, in that threatening way that makes you immediately defensive. Comfortable looking, short black hair, messenger bag covered in enamel pins, laughing at something on his screen. Then she reached over, casual, unconscious, and fixed his collar that had flipped up. He leaned into her touch, smiled, continued typing. We should go, I whispered. We should absolutely not go. We're adults. Get coffee like a normal person. But I couldn't move, couldn't stop watching. She was reading something, occasionally commenting. He was coding. I recognized his focused expression, but every few minutes he'd look up, check if she needed anything. Their knees touched under the table. Neither moved away. Then it happened. She stood to get another coffee, touched his shoulder as she passed, light, brief, asking nothing, and he reached up, covered her hand with his, quick squeeze, natural as breathing, 6 months, 183 days of no touch, and he'd already rebuilt that reflex with someone else. Maya steered me to the counter, ordered for both of us, while I stared at the pastry case without seeing. The barista, Amy, according to her name tag, probably knew, asked if we wanted our usual. "You don't know our usual," I said, sharper than intended. "Oh, sorry. I thought you were with Marcus. He and Leslie always get the cortado and chai latte combo." Leslie. Her name was Leslie. "They're regulars?" Maya asked because I'd lost the ability to speak. "Every Sunday, sometimes Wednesdays too. Super cute couple. He brings her flowers sometimes. Just single stems from Pike Market, but still, romance isn't dead, you know?" Flowers. Marcus brought her flowers. In 4 years, he'd brought me flowers exactly twice. Our first Valentine's, and when my grandmother died. I'd told him they were impractical. Died too fast, waste of money. He'd listened. He'd always listened. We got our coffees. Wrong. Everything was wrong. This barista didn't know us, and I made the mistake of walking past their table to leave. Marcus looked up. Saw me. His expression did something complicated. Surprise, discomfort, maybe pity. "Sarah." Neutral, polite. "Hi." Leslie looked between us, understanding dawning. "Oh, you're Sarah." What had he told her? That I was the woman who'd called his touch disgusting? The ex who'd made him scared of his own hands? Or just that we weren't compatible? That clinical phrase that revealed nothing? "This is Leslie," Marcus said unnecessarily. "Nice to meet you," she said, and seemed to mean it. Her hand moved to his shoulder again. Claiming or comforting, I couldn't tell. That's when I saw it. The blue ceramic mug. That stupid, chipped, sacred mug he'd packed so carefully. Sitting in front of Leslie. Steam rising from what was probably her chai latte, the one she and Marcus always got. "We should go," Maya said, pulling me toward the door. "Sarah?" Marcus called. I turned. "I'm glad you're doing well." Doing well? Like we were acquaintances who'd lost touch. Like 4 years compressed into polite small talk. But the worst part was his hand, the one that found Leslie's on his shoulder, interlacing fingers in that familiar way that used to be mine. Outside, Maya lit a cigarette she'd supposedly quit. "You okay?" He gave her his mug. Sarah, that fucking blue mug with the chip that he wouldn't throw away. That he'd had since college. That he made my coffee in every morning until I stopped, unable to say until I ruined everything. "They look good together," Maya said, because Maya didn't sugarcoat. "I know." She touches him, and he doesn't flinch. "I know." He looks happy. "I know." But knowing and feeling were different things, and what I felt was the specific kind of grief that comes from watching someone you broke heal themselves with someone else. Someone who didn't need spreadsheets to understand that his touch was love, not violation. Someone who could receive his affection without making it a referendum on female autonomy. Leslie. Her name was Leslie, and she drank from his sacred mug, and she fixed his collar, and he brought her flowers just because it was Sunday. I lasted 3 days before I texted him. "Can we talk? Not about us. Just closure." He agreed to meet at his new apartment, Ballard, closer to his office. When he opened the door, I smelled cinnamon. Our apartment, my apartment, never smelled like cinnamon. We'd been scent neutral, everything unscented, because I claimed artificial fragrances gave me headaches. "Come in," he said, stepping aside without touching the small of my back, like he used to when guiding me through doorways. The space was pure Marcus, but unleashed. Plants everywhere. He'd wanted plants, but I'd said they'd attract bugs. Art on the walls. Actual art, not just the safe prince I'd approved. His gaming setup in the living room instead of hidden in an office. That fleece blanket draped over a leather couch that probably cost more than my rent. Coffee, he offered. You don't have my oat milk. I have oat milk. Leslie's lactose intolerant too. Of course she was. Of course they'd already merged their grocery preferences, their Sunday routines, their coffee orders. 6 months, and she'd inhabited spaces in his life I'd kept carefully separate. For 4 years, he made my coffee exactly right, 2 sugars, splash of vanilla he still kept in his cupboard, handed it to me in a regular white mug, careful not to let our fingers touch in the transfer. You wanted closure, he prompted, sitting across from me, not beside me. I wanted to apologize. Okay, that's it, okay? What do you want me to say, Sarah? That I forgive you? I do. That it's all fine? It's not. That we can try again? We can't. Why not? He looked at me with something like pity. Because nothing's changed. You're not here because you suddenly want me. You're here because you saw me with Leslie and realized you don't want anyone else to want me either. That's not. When did you last initiate physical intimacy with anyone? Not just me. Anyone. I thought about the 2 Bumble dates I'd tried. The investment banker who'd gone for a goodnight kiss and I'd turned my cheek. The software guy who'd touched my hand over drinks and I'd pulled away to check my phone. It's been a weird time, Sarah. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, and for a moment I thought he might reach for me. He didn't. I spent 6 months in therapy trying to understand what I did wrong. How I'd misread 4 years of signals. How I'd become the kind of man who gropes his girlfriend without realizing it. You weren't, but you said I was, and I believed you. Spent months analyzing every touch, every moment I'd reached for you, thinking it was love when maybe it was just taking. My therapist finally asked me something that changed everything. What? She asked when you last made me feel desired. Not just loved, not just appreciated, but actively, physically desired. And I couldn't answer. 4 years, and I couldn't name a single time you'd reached for me, just because you wanted to touch me. The truth of it sat between us like a third person in the room. I tried, I said weakly. When? That time you put your hand on my shoulder to test if I'd crack? The time you sat next to me on the couch to see if I'd flee? Those weren't attempts at intimacy. They were experiments. Power plays. I was scared. Of what? Of me? The man who loved you so much, he charted his rejection rate to try to love you better. Who moved into the guest room rather than risk making you uncomfortable? Who hasn't touched another human being in 6 months because you made him believe his touch was violation? Then how are you with Leslie? How can you? Because she wants me to touch her. Simple. Devastating. First time we got coffee, she touched my hand when I made a stupid programming joke. Just reached over and touched me, like it was normal. Like she wanted to. Do you understand what that felt like after months of believing I was toxic? So I taught you taught me not to want you, he said quietly, the words landing exactly as hard as they had the first time. But Leslie's teaching me something different, that my desire isn't disgusting, that reaching for someone can be welcome, that love can live in your body without apology. I started crying then, ugly crying, the kind that makes your face leak from every opening. I fucked up. Yes. I ruined us. We ruined us. You, by taking my love for granted. Me, by never asking for what I needed. Until it was too late. I love you. I tried one last time. I know, he said standing, but you don't desire me, and I need both. Leslie gives me both. Freely. Without spreadsheets or negotiations or making me feel like my touch is something to endure. He walked me to the door, still careful not to touch. As I stepped out, I turned back. The cinnamon, is that her? No, he said. That's me. I love cinnamon. Always have. You just never asked. The apartment feels wrong now. 6 weeks since that conversation in Ballard, and I still catch myself leaving space for him. Still make 2 cups of coffee some mornings before remembering. The muscle memory of 4 years doesn't just disappear because the person does. I kept finding things. A programming book wedged behind the nightstand, one of his backup phone chargers in my car's glove compartment, a single sock that somehow survived Jake's methodical packing. Each discovery was a little death, another reminder of how thoroughly we'd been woven together before I pulled the thread that made us unravel. The lavender hand lotion finally ran out last Tuesday. I stood in Target's lotion aisle for 20 minutes, unable to choose a replacement. Everything felt like a betrayal or a memorial, bought unscented, safe, neutral, nothing. Maya sent me a screenshot yesterday. Marcus's Instagram, active again. A photo of Pike Market flowers, tulips, single stems, yellow and ridiculous in November. Caption, she said yes. The comments flooded in. Finally, from his brother. About time, you two are perfect together. From someone named Chen. So happy for you both. From Danny, whose wedding we were supposed to attend together. Engaged, after 7 months, to someone who touched him first, who wanted his plants and his cinnamon and his Sunday morning rituals. Someone who didn't need 2 years of rejection data to understand that his love language wasn't violation, but devotion. I drafted 17 different responses. Congratulations. Seemed too casual. I'm happy for you. Felt like a lie. You deserve this. Was true. But sounded sarcastic in text. Finally settled on just a heart emoji. Basic, meaningless. Safe? He didn't respond, but Leslie did. A simple, thank you, Sarah, that somehow made it worse. Gracious, secure, everything I hadn't been. The fleece blanket arrived via Amazon today. Same brand, same color, trying to recreate what I'd lost. It smells like packaging and newness, nothing like the one that lived through 4 years of Sunday couch sessions and sick days, and that one time we'd used it as a terrible picnic blanket in Discovery Park. I wrapped myself in it tonight, scrolling through our old texts, found the one from last April 14th, the night before everything ended. Him. Love you. Sleep tight, beautiful. Me. Still working. Don't wait up. Him. Never stop waiting for you. Me. No response. There it was, in digital archaeology. Proof that he'd never stopped reaching out, and I'd already stopped reaching back long before I accused him of reaching too much. Janet asked me yesterday what I'd learned from all this. That I got exactly what I asked for, I said. And what was that? Space, distance, a partner who never touched me without permission. Is that what you wanted? No, I admitted. I wanted to be desired without having to desire back, loved without having to love actively, touched when I wanted it, without having to ask or reciprocate. That's not a partner, Janet said gently. That's a service. She's right. Marcus wasn't my partner. He was my devoted attendant. And when I finally named that dynamic, called it groping, sexualizing, pawing, he did the only thing left. He stopped serving. The apartment is quiet now. No humming from the shower. No keyboard clicking from the dining room. No, you're home when I walk in. Just me and my unscented lotion and my new fleece blanket and the echo of, you taught me not to want you. The blue mug with the chip is getting married to someone who drinks chai lattes and fixes collars and teaches broken men that their touch is magic, not malice. I taught him not to want me. He learned the lesson perfectly.